This is your news source evening bulletin for today, Friday the 31st day of August in the year 2018. Here's what we're tracking tonight. With schools set to officially reopen their doors on Monday amid a nationwide strike by teachers, President David Granger today announced that the government is now actively searching for fresh sources of funding to offer striking teachers an improved salary.
The government has been trying to meet the teachers' needs after several discussions at Cabinet on the high-level panel report. Money was found to augment the initial offer, and even as I speak, the Ministry of Social Protection, which has responsibility for labor and industrial relations, is in touch with the Ministry of Finance to see whether additional funds could be found from other heads of government expenditure in order to move closer to the goal of providing sufficient funds for the teachers.
At his first press conference for the year, President Granger said he views the strike action as extreme, but believes the negotiation process should continue through conciliation and then possible arbitration. He said he does not believe mediation has failed.
At this stage, the immediate need is for us to conclude an agreement which would see the teachers calling off the strike and entering into long-term negotiations for that multi-year agreement. The government has put on the table the need for arbitration. We feel that the strike is an extreme measure and it should only be applied in the last resort. Before we reach to the stage of a strike, there should be some form of mediation, and if mediation fails, we can go to arbitration. But I think it's premature to speak of a strike at this stage, and we are still, on the government side, aiming at mediation. I do not believe that mediation has failed.
The government in its counter-offer to the teachers is only covering 1 year of salary increases, while the GTU wants an agreement that will cover 5 years. The president said that while a multi-year agreement would be desirable, the two sides have not had the opportunity for those talks to continue, adding that this is not the time for a multi-year deal. A special task force that was set up by the president has recommended a 40% salary increase for teachers for 2016 and 5% annually for the remaining 4 years. The government has offered $700 million to cover an across-the-board increase for teachers for this year, but that increase might only see an additional $4,000 per month on the salary of teachers. The GTU said that figure is not enough. More news in a moment.
Summer is for selfies with lots of data from GTT. Activate a 3-day or more data plan to get up to 35% extra data and a chance to win big. LOL this summer with GTT, Guyana's #1 network.
Summer is for friends, weekly prizes, and super summer getaways from Caribbean Airlines. So top up $1,000 or more and get 25% bonus credit plus a chance to win big. LOL this summer with GTT, Guyana's #1 network.
Thanks for staying with us. Welcome back. The National Anti-Narcotics Agency has reported that in 2017, over $20 billion worth of narcotics were removed from the streets of Guyana, and over 300 persons were convicted for various crimes related to narco-trafficking, narco-possession, and other drug-related offenses. In its 2017 report, the agency announced that a total of 55,139 kilograms of narcotics were seized last year. Those narcotics included cocaine, marijuana, heroin, and ecstasy. Additionally, over 117,000 kilograms of marijuana plants were destroyed. The report also highlighted the efforts of professionals working in the field of drug prevention and treatment. According to the Guyana Drug Information Network, through the combined efforts of the Ministry of Health, the Ministries of Education and Public Security, and several NGOs, over 900 professionals have received training in drug prevention and drug supply reduction to work with youths and at-risk populations. Further, over 100 persons have received specialized treatment for problematic drug use via the Phoenix Recovery Project and the Salvation Army's Men's Social Service. The Guyana Drug Information Network is an interagency body comprising of key stakeholders from law enforcement agencies working in drug supply reduction and professionals working in the field of drug prevention and treatment, who meet regularly to share data on drug supply and demand reduction interventions. This one could put you on a high. President David Granger today announced that the government has agreed to abolish custodial sentences for small amounts of marijuana, and it will be taking legislation to the National Assembly to amend the existing laws. During his Friday midday press conference, the president said the legislation could find its way in the National Assembly as soon as the parliament returns from its recess in a few weeks. He said the position has already been agreed to at the cabinet level, and therefore there would be no difficulty in implementing the legislation. Possession and use of marijuana in Guyana are still illegal acts and carry a minimum sentence of 3 years in jail. But those laws have been described as archaic. The president had previously noted that while government is moving in the direction of removing custodial sentences, industrialization of marijuana is totally off the books. Let's tell you now that the recently established Department of Energy in the Ministry of the Presidency has been tasked with reviewing all of the arrangements between the government of Guyana and the ExxonMobil company. At his press conference earlier today, President David Granger said while the review will take place once international contracts have been engaged, there is no question of removal or renegotiation.
We will move forward and ensure that we continue to get the best advice before we engage in any other negotiations.
But in retrospect, sir, do you think the government should have fought for a much tougher contract that would have seen Guyana benefiting a whole lot more?
Given the circumstances at the time, I think the government did what was in the realm of possibility. I do not want to answer your question in the way that you might feel it should be answered. Given the situation at the time, I felt that we did the best that we could in the circumstances.
On Thursday, the Exxon company announced its 9th oil find in Guyana. Even before that announcement and based on estimates from the previous 8 discoveries, the company set the total discovery to 4 billion barrels of oil. That number is now expected to climb. Under the contract, which was originally signed in 1999 but renegotiated in 2016, Guyana will get 2% of the royalty from the oil and 50% of the profit. Some international analysts have predicted that Guyana stands to benefit from annual income from the oil industry of more than $6 billion per year when production takes off. That figure could see a tripling of Guyana's economic growth rate within the first 5 years of production. Still, some analysts believe that Guyana could have gotten a better piece of the pie when the original contract was renegotiated 2 years ago. For President David Granger, the government did what was in the realm of possibility at the time. Earlier this week, the government announced that the Department of Energy has hired a well-respected international oil and gas expert as its advisor on the sector. The official, who was born in Australia, worked in the oil industry in many of the top producing nations. He will be based in Guyana. And finally this evening, we turn to the courts. With no legal representation, 2 men appeared in court this afternoon to face murder charges related to the shooting death of border market cheese vendor Troy Romalo. The 2 accused, 26-year-old Akeem Morris and 34-year-old George Patton, were not required to enter a plea to the indictable murder charge as they appeared before the chief magistrate. The court heard it on the 15th of August at Robb Street border. The 2 murdered Troy Romalo during the course of a robbery. The businessman reportedly refused to hand over his jewelry when he was attacked by the 2 men, and he was shot once to the chest. The 2 accused were arrested following an intense investigation by the police. Several eyewitnesses provided statements. The magistrate remanded the 2 men to jail until the 27th of September, when they will make their next court appearance. Following their appearance in court today, the police at the court were forced to put the 2 men in separate holding facilities after they got into a heated argument just after they appeared before the magistrate. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting.